Welcome to Mind Like Space, where every breath draws you deeper into the quiet wonders of the universe. And tonight, we travel into the silent intelligence of nature. The ancient rhythm of light, water, and green. But before we begin, tell me, where in the world are you tuning in from? And what time is it on your end? Whether it's midnight in Mumbai or dusk in Toronto, I want to know who's lying beneath the stars with us tonight. Now close your eyes if you can. Let your body soften. And let us begin a journey that starts with a single leaf and ends in the pulse of the planet itself. This is photosynthesis, how plants catch the sun's breath. You lie beneath the canopy of an old tree, its branches reaching outward like gentle arms, as if trying to embrace the sky. The world above you is dappled in shifting gold, sunlight weaving through the lattice of green. You feel the warmth against your skin, soft and slow, as if time itself were exhaling. You are still. The breeze hushes the air. And the light, it speaks, though it makes no sound. This is not just any light. This is the light of a star. Your star. The sun, 93 million miles away, sends its touch across the void each morning, and when it arrives, it doesn't scream. It whispers. You watch how it kisses the leaves, how it glides across the moss, how it nestles into the veins of every blade of grass. It is more than brightness. It is a message. A breath. A story carried across time, pulsing with quiet purpose. You close your eyes and imagine yourself as a leaf. You are light-born now, tender and green. Above you, photons, tiny, weightless messengers, rain down like invisible snowflakes, each one holding a fragment of energy. They have traveled through space not for seconds or minutes, but for 8 long minutes and 20 silent seconds. You feel them land, gently, upon your surface. And as they land, something awakens. Deep inside your cells, a pigment waits. Chlorophyll, your green heart, opens to receive the light. It doesn't just absorb it. It listens. It knows the precise wavelength, the perfect hue, the soft rhythm of the sun's pulse. It captures what it needs, mostly red and blue, and reflects the green back to the sky, so that you shine the color of life itself. You are no longer passive. You are responding. The light has arrived, and now, the work begins. But this work is not labor. It is music, composed in silence. A transformation so elegant it humbles the loudest inventions of humankind. You sit in wonder as the photons pass through chlorophyll, exciting electrons, stirring movement within molecules that were, just a moment ago, still. It is here, in this flash of invisible energy, that life begins again. All of Earth depends on this moment. The air you breathe, the food you eat, the rhythm of the seasons, they all unfurl from this quiet act of catching the sun. Light, you realize, is not just something to see. It is something to be translated. Decoded. Not by language, but by the secret syntax of cells. And leaves, those green sails fluttering in the wind, are the ancient readers of this script. You lift your gaze back up. The tree above you is not only receiving sunlight. It is performing with it. Every second, it is converting invisible beams into motionless miracles, into sugars, into oxygen, into the stuff that fuels the breath in your chest. You feel your lungs rise and fall. Do you realize how deeply your body is connected to this light? Even your skin, in its own way, drinks sunlight. Your bones, your sleep, your mood, they all shift with the sun's cycles. But plants, they are the bridge. They take in what your cells cannot. They catch the sun's breath, and hold it, and share it back with the world. You lie there, listening. Though there is no wind, the branches sway ever so slightly, responding not just to breeze but to light. You learn that even leaves can turn, can reposition themselves in small daily dances to catch the angles of the sun. Some rise in the morning, some fold in the evening, as if bowing in gratitude. This light, ancient and tireless, has been shining long before you were born. And it will continue long after. Yet in this moment, here, now, it is entirely yours. Yours to feel. Yours to understand. You begin to notice things you hadn't before. The brightness isn't constant, it flickers softly as a cloud passes. Shadows grow and shrink. Light filters through layers of leaf and branch, becoming calmer, gentler with every step. This is dappled light, the kind that invites sleep, the kind that makes you feel small in the best possible way. And in that smallness, you feel connection. You are part of the web that stretches across continents and oceans, where light strikes water, and algae bloom, where grasslands stretch under wide skies, shimmering in photosynthetic symphony, where rainforest leaves, layered and deep, create entire climates from the songs of sunlight. But now, come back to the leaf. Just one. Imagine what it must be like to live this way, arms outstretched, face to the sky, patient and open. No chasing, no clinging. Just quiet absorption. Just the daily miracle of turning light into life. There is wisdom here, in this stillness. Not the kind that fills books, but the kind that fills roots. The kind that says, let what comes, come. Let the sun arrive. Let the light fall. And receive it fully, without resistance. Your breath slows. Your shoulders ease. You feel yourself mirrored in the leaf stillness, not separate from the tree, not separate from the light, but part of it. Noticing it. Reflecting it. And in this state of gentle being, something shifts. You begin to wonder, how does this leaf, so soft and thin, hold such power? How does it gather air and water and weave them with light? What happens inside, beneath its green skin, that lets it perform such magic? You close your eyes and prepare to fall deeper, not into sleep just yet, but into the leaf itself. You are about to enter the place where transformation begins. Where air enters, water flows, and cells shine like stained glass under the sun's breath. Let's drift closer now, to the surface of the leaf. And see that it is not just a surface at all, but a world. You float now, slowly descending through the quiet morning air, until you come to rest upon the soft skin of a single leaf. It welcomes you like a quiet lake welcomes a feather, gently, without ripple, without sound. At first glance, it seems simple. Flat, green, still. Just a leaf, no more, no less. But you stay. You let your eyes linger. And as your gaze softens, details begin to unfold. You notice the veins first, delicate lines branching out like rivers across a landscape. They are not drawn randomly. They are maps of transport, highways of water and minerals, delivering nourishment from root to tip. These veins are part of the leaf's vascular system, much like the veins in your own body. They pulse, not with blood, but with life in another form, sap, water, dissolved sunlight from yesterday's air. You lean in closer. The surface is not smooth, as it once seemed. It is alive with texture, scattered with tiny pores, stomata, little mouths that open and close in response to the day's breath. Through them, carbon dioxide flows in, and oxygen slips out, a silent exchange between plant and atmosphere. These tiny mouths are wise. They know when to open wide, when to shut tight. When the air is dry, when water must be saved, they tighten, like lips braced against a storm. When the light is right and water is plenty, they open fully, drawing in the raw ingredients of life. They do this without thought, but not without intelligence. You begin to see more. Just beneath the surface, in a soft inner world, cells glisten like tiny chambers of green glass. You imagine yourself small enough to step inside one. It is warm, softly lit, and filled with purpose. These are mesophyll cells, nestled between the upper and lower layers of the leaf, where most of the photosynthesis takes place. They are crowded with tiny green bodies, chloroplasts, floating like little jade boats in a sea of cytoplasm. Each chloroplast holds within it a folded structure, like a labyrinth of solar panels, ready to receive the sun's whisper. These folds are thylakoids, where light is caught and transformed. But for now, don't worry about names. Just feel it, this invisible machinery, humming silently beneath the surface. You sit inside one of these cells, quiet and still, listening. It doesn't sound like anything. There are no clicks or beeps, no whirring motors or glowing lights. But it is busy. Far busier than any human factory. Molecules move in constant choreography, guided by ancient patterns older than any city, older than any tree. Light enters. Water arrives, drawn upward from the soil, droplet by droplet, through roots, stems, into the leaf's veins. And now, carbon dioxide flows in through the open stomata. These three, sunlight, water, air, begin to meet, not by accident, but by design. The leaf is a place where elements converge. Inside the chloroplast, light energy excites electrons, like tapping a string of a violin. The energy is passed from molecule to molecule, flowing through the thylakoid membrane. It splits water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is released, the breath you just took is part of that gift. The hydrogen stays, holding the sun's energy like a battery. This energy is stored, shaped, transformed. Soon, sugar will be born, glucose, a simple molecule with extraordinary purpose. A form of fuel so universal that nearly every living being on Earth can use it. This sugar will feed the plant. It will move down into roots, into fruits, into seeds. It may one day become the sweetness of an apple, the strength of a branch, the color of a flower. But not yet. For now, you sit in the middle of the leaf's quiet labor. You begin to understand, a leaf is not just a passive receiver of light. It is an active builder, a converter, a translator between worlds. It takes from the earth and the sky, and it creates something entirely new. You look around again. This leaf you rest upon, it may be one of millions on the same tree. And the tree may be one of billions on this planet. Yet each leaf is its own workshop. Its own universe. Not one is idle. Each is making air, making sugar, making life. In the time it took you to read these words, countless molecules have shifted, countless bonds have formed and broken again, guided by sunlight and enzymes and time. Even in silence, even in sleep, this process continues. The leaf doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't compare itself to the leaf next to it. It simply does what it was born to do. It listens to light. It breathes with the wind. It serves the tree, and by serving the tree, it serves the whole. You take a breath, deeper this time. You realize how deeply your life depends on this leaf and billions like it. Without them, there would be no oxygen, no food, no fuel for the body. You depend on this quiet, tireless work, even if you never see it. You are connected, not just metaphorically, but materially. The breath you just exhaled, it may soon enter a nearby leaf. The carbon in your lungs will become part of the plant, part of its sugar, its seed, its shade. And perhaps one day, it will return to you, in the form of fruit, or wood, or oxygen, given freely once more. Isn't that a beautiful cycle? And so you lie still on this leaf, your mind drifting like a cloud, thinking now not of science or facts, but of gratitude. For the things that seem small, yet are not. For the parts of the world that are busy even when unseen. For the quiet workers that never ask for thanks. For a single leaf, that is not just a leaf at all. Your eyes close now, gently. But before we drift deeper, a thought enters like a soft breeze. What is this chlorophyll, this green miracle, that knows how to hold light? Why does it shine green, and what does it truly see that you cannot? Come, let's follow the light more closely now. To learn how sunlight speaks its secret language to the leaf. And how, in turn, the leaf replies. You lie in stillness, your breath calm, your thoughts soft as mist. Above you, the canopy glows. And somewhere deep within a leaf, a miracle unfolds again and again, too quiet to hear, too small to see, yet powerful enough to fuel life itself. Let us slip now into a single beam of sunlight. Imagine yourself becoming weightless, tiny beyond imagination, a single photon. You've left the surface of the sun, traveled millions of miles across the vacuum of space, riding a wave of energy. You are not solid, not even slow. You are light itself, pure, golden, ancient. And now, you arrive. You touch the surface of a leaf, a landing softer than any feather. And in that instant, you are absorbed by a molecule that has been waiting for you, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, the green alchemist. Its structure is like a net, wide and welcoming, designed by nature through eons of quiet refinement. It doesn't just absorb light, it listens to it. It selects specific parts of the sunlight spectrum, the ones carrying the perfect rhythm for life. Mostly, it drinks the red and blue. It reflects the green, and that's why you see leaves shimmer with that color. But what does it mean to absorb light? It means that the photon, the tiny sun messenger, transfers its energy to an electron within chlorophyll. The electron, once calm and quiet, is suddenly excited. It leaps, jumps, becomes energized, like a breath held at the edge of song. This leap isn't chaos. It is the first note in a melody. You follow the electron now, carried through a sequence known as the light-dependent reactions, though you don't need to remember the name. Just think of it as the light's response. A trail of energy. A river of motion. Each molecule it touches is like a stepping stone, guiding it along a delicate path known as the electron transport chain. These chains are not chains of metal, they are chains of purpose. Each link is a protein, folded with intention, resting along the thylakoid membrane within the chloroplast. As the electron moves, it pushes protons across the membrane, like filling one side of a balloon. This builds up pressure, a gradient, a gentle tension that begs for release. And then, like a wheel turning with water, the pressure is released through a spinning protein called ATP synthase. It is one of the tiniest motors in existence, smaller than anything your eyes could see, yet essential to your life. As it turns, it creates something new, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. A molecule that stores energy, ready to be used. Sunlight has now become something you can hold. Not as fire, not as heat, but as stored motion, ready to power the chemistry of life. You drift now, slowly, calmly, through this inner world. Another molecule is formed too, NADPH, another quiet carrier, holding onto hydrogen and energy, ready to be used in the next phase, when the plant will turn these into sugar. But that comes later. For now, you linger in this transformation. This is where sunlight becomes useful. This is where it becomes yours. You might never think of it as you walk under trees or sit beside a plant on your windowsill, but those green leaves are reading light. Decoding it. Turning its rhythm into reactions, its brightness into bonds. And all of this is happening in silence. There is no sound, no flame, no flash. Just molecules receiving, electrons passing, energy flowing, smoothly, constantly. It is a conversation, not of words, but of movement. And you begin to realize something beautiful. Light doesn't just shine. It speaks. And chlorophyll, that green jewel in every leaf, understands its language. It knows when the light is strong and when it is dim. It knows the difference between the golden warmth of dawn and the crisp silver of moonlight. It adjusts, shifts, responds. The chloroplasts can even move inside the cell, gathering near the top when the light is gentle, retreating to the sides when the light becomes harsh. Like dancers changing position, always in harmony. The plant does not resist the light. It does not chase it. It simply listens and responds. This gentle lesson begins to settle into your breath. You, too, are surrounded by light, in forms you may not always see. Light from screens, light from stars, light from thoughts, light from within. And like the leaf, you too can learn to receive what nourishes, and release what overwhelms. You take a deep breath. In this moment, light feels like more than physics. It feels like presence. A reminder that something as distant as the sun can become something as close as your next breath. All because of a single photon. A single chlorophyll molecule. A single choice to be open. You lie in that truth for a while, still, quiet, absorbing. And just as the plant listens to sunlight, another question begins to form in the stillness. Now that light has been captured and stored. How does a plant turn it into food, into real, solid sugar, into growth? What is the process that lets sunlight become fruit? How does light become life? Let's follow that journey next. Step deeper into the heart of the leaf, where green alchemy begins. You float now in the quiet, glowing heart of a chloroplast, a soft green chamber wrapped in membranes, deep within the leaf. The light that arrived so gracefully has already been caught, and its energy, once wild and radiant, is now held gently in the arms of molecules like ATP and NADPH. This is where the alchemy begins. No gold is made here. No metal, no jewels. But something far more precious, sugar, the silent source of strength, the fuel of roots, seeds, and flesh. And like any sacred craft, this process is careful, measured, devoted. It does not hurry. You are watching the Calvin cycle, though it wears no crown, sings no song, and carries no scent. But it is the ritual through which the raw ingredients, carbon dioxide, energy, and hydrogen, become food. Real food. Sweet and nourishing. Let's begin at the breath. Carbon dioxide, the very air you just exhaled, drifts gently into the leaf through tiny pores. It is a gas, invisible and ordinary, but the leaf sees something more. Inside the stroma, the chloroplast's soft, watery space, the molecule is welcomed like a guest. There, an enzyme named RUBISCO waits patiently. RUBISCO is one of the most abundant proteins on Earth, yet most people never hear its name. It is not famous. It does not dazzle. But it is sacred. Because it is the gatekeeper, the one that begins the transformation. It takes the carbon from the air and binds it to a simple sugar already waiting inside. This is the first step, carbon fixation. You might imagine it like hands catching raindrops. Each drop of carbon, gathered and held, is added to something larger. Piece by piece. Thought by thought. Breath by breath. The new molecules formed are unstable, awkward, not yet usable. So the leaf, with calm precision, reshapes them. The energy from ATP is spent here, like coins paid for a tool. NADP adds its touch, donating electrons and hydrogen, gentle gifts of power. And slowly, the unstable becomes stable. The energy becomes form. Glucose begins to take shape. A single glucose molecule is small, just 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogens, 6 oxygens. But inside it, the sun's energy is woven like thread. It's sunlight made solid. A silent, sweet packet of power. Glucose is more than sugar. It's the foundation of the plant's body. It can be stored as starch in roots. Used to build cellulose, the strong walls of stems and trunks. Or shared, in sweetness, with animals, with insects, with you. You remember the fruit you once bit into, warm, ripe, dripping with sugar. That sweetness came from this very moment, the birth of glucose inside a leaf, long before you tasted it. That fruit was sunlight, remade for your tongue. And so you watch, not with eyes, but with attention. Carbon enters. Energy guides. Molecules twist, turn, split, and merge. All silently. All within a single cell. And across the leaf, across the tree, across the forest, this same alchemy plays out in millions of chambers, over and over again. It is not noisy. It is not proud. The leaf does not boast about its sugar. It does not demand applause for turning thin air into nourishment. It simply continues. Like breath. Like heartbeat. Like kindness. And in this quiet transformation, there is a lesson for you too. You don't always need to shine to be powerful. You don't always need to be seen to be essential. Sometimes the most beautiful work happens in the background. Where light becomes love. Where air becomes offering. As the glucose forms, some of it is kept. Some is sent down to the roots, some to the branches. The plant shares its treasure. And in that sharing, it grows. You now imagine a forest, not as still and separate, but alive with invisible exchange. Trees giving sugar to their roots, roots feeding soil, soil nurturing fungi, fungi connecting to other roots. A quiet internet of life, built on this one transformation, light into sugar. You breathe deeper. You feel it, how even your body responds. The same glucose, in a different way, fuels your muscles, your thoughts, your dreams. The sugar you eat was born in leaves. Your energy, to walk, to write, to love, began in this green alchemy. You are not apart from it. You are a continuation. You lie still now, letting that truth settle into your chest, into your bones. Light travels to earth. Leaves catch it. Sugar forms. That sugar travels, into fruit, into grain, into your breath. And in the darkness of sleep, your cells quietly do what the leaf once did. They take in fuel. They build. They rest. They begin again. There is beauty in the repetition. Beauty in the cycle. The Calvin cycle doesn't end, it turns, like the seasons, like the moon. Always changing, yet always familiar. And in that turning, the world is renewed day by day, leaf by leaf, breath by breath. Before you drift off, another question stirs, gentle as a ripple. Now that sugar has been born, what of the oxygen? The part of the process we breathe in? What happens to the breath the leaf does not keep? Let's follow that next. Down through the pores of the leaf, into the silent, living breath of the tree. You are resting now, your body heavy with stillness, your breath slow and steady. Around you, the world dims, the day softens into twilight. And somewhere nearby, a tree stands quietly, unmoved by time, unmoved by hurry. But within its stillness, something sacred continues. It breathes. Not in the way you do, no chest rising, no lungs filling, but with a rhythm so quiet it could be mistaken for silence. The leaves, the bark, the roots, they all take part. It is not a breath of muscles, but of molecules. Not of noise, but of need. The tree, like you, has just completed a day's work. It has caught sunlight, woven it into sugar, and released something soft into the air, oxygen, a byproduct, a gift. Not kept, not hoarded. Released without effort. A leaf doesn't know who will use the oxygen it makes. It simply gives it, endlessly. You take a breath in, through your nose, into your lungs, deep into your blood. That oxygen may have been exhaled just moments ago by a tree beside you, or by a blade of grass beneath your feet. What you inhale is the leaf's exhale. Your lungs and its veins are not so different, both carry life, both pass along what the body cannot make alone. You are not borrowing this breath. You are sharing it. This sharing, quiet, unnoticed, is not new. It has been happening since the first plants emerged from water onto land, millions of years ago. Before animals walked, before birds sang, the forests were already breathing, already shaping the very air that would one day cradle your lungs. And just as you exhale carbon dioxide, the leaf draws it in. What you give, it uses. What it gives, you receive. This is not coincidence. This is communion. At night, the sun is gone, and photosynthesis rests. The tree no longer makes sugar from light, but it does not sleep in the way you do. Its cells still need energy. And so, even the tree breathes inward, consuming a small share of the sugars it made during the day. This is cellular respiration, the quiet partner to photosynthesis. Within each cell, mitochondria, tiny powerhouses, begin their work. They take the sugars formed from sunlight and break them down, step by step, releasing energy in a soft, glowing cascade. Oxygen is used in this process. Water and carbon dioxide are released. In this way, the tree consumes a bit of its own gift, the sugar made by sunlight, the oxygen made from splitting water, to fuel its nighttime needs. Even in the darkness, the cycle continues. And you, lying beneath its branches, mirror this rhythm without trying. You too use oxygen to break down your food. You too breathe without needing to think. You too are sustained by something that cannot be held. You begin to feel how life is not built in isolation. The tree does not breathe alone. Beneath the bark, in the soft tissue known as the phloem, sugars flow downward, from leaves to roots. And in the xylem, water flows upward, from soil to leaf. These flows crisscross like currents in a river, moving nutrients, messages, and memory throughout the entire tree. The roots receive the sugar. In return, they reach outward and downward, pulling water and minerals from the earth. And all the while, oxygen is exchanged, not just in the leaves but in the tiniest root hairs, the hidden parts of the tree. Even the bark participates, porous and textured, it allows gases to pass in and out. These are called lenticels, tiny breathing holes, scattered like freckles along twigs and stems. Quietly, they whisper their part in the tree's breath. You now imagine what it would be like to be inside the trunk of the tree, wrapped in wood, surrounded by growth rings, listening to the soundless sound of molecules passing through layers of life. You would feel it in a steady flow. Sugar down. Water up. Oxygen in. Carbon out. Light in the day. Energy in the dark. And somehow, all of it, all this silent movement, brings stability. The tree doesn't rush. It has no deadlines. No anxiety. No race. It lives by season, by cycle, by light and dark. It breathes when it must, gives what it can, and holds what it needs. And in its way, it teaches you a kind of stillness you may have forgotten. You don't need to be busy to be alive. You don't need to do more to be enough. Sometimes, simply breathing, deeply, gently, is the greatest work of all. You place a hand on your chest. Feel it rise and fall. Each inhale is a welcome. Each exhale is a gift. You are the tree. The tree is you. Not in metaphor, but in matter. Your atoms have shared the same spaces, the same breaths. In time, your carbon may return to the soil, feed a root, become a branch. And just before you drift further into sleep, you sense something more. There is a current that pulls water from the deepest roots to the highest leaves, a movement against gravity, powered by the sun and the thirst of air. How does it happen? How does water rise so far, with no pump, no heart? What force carries it upward, drop by drop? Come, let us follow that path next. From soil to sky. Through the hidden river within the tree. Beneath the forest floor, where roots weave like fingers through soil, a droplet waits. It is clear, quiet, unseen, part of the ancient underground stream that moves through earth like a secret. It has no voice. No speed. Just patience. Until now. Something above calls. Not with sound, but with emptiness, a gentle pull that begins at the tip of a leaf, reaches down through branch and trunk, and tugs on the roots like a whisper in reverse. And so, the droplet begins to rise. You follow it. It moves slowly at first, slipping into the fine hairs of the root, where minerals cling and dissolve. The root does not grab the water. It welcomes it, a soft osmosis, a quiet exchange. Cell by cell, the droplet is passed inward, drawn toward a central path. This path is not paved, not carved, but grown, a narrow channel known as the xylem, running like a hidden elevator through the heart of the tree. The xylem is made of hollow cells, stacked end to end, like tiny drinking straws stretching from root to canopy. There is no pump here. No motor. No mechanical force. And yet, the droplet rises. How? The answer lies in tension. Not the tense kind that tightens your chest, but the kind that holds things together, like a thread pulled between sky and soil. When sunlight touches a leaf, it coaxes water out through its tiny pores, transpiration, the silent breath of the plant. As water escapes into the air, it leaves behind a small emptiness, a space that must be filled. This emptiness reaches downward. It tugs on the water just below it, which pulls on the water below that, and so on, a continuous, invisible chain stretching all the way down to the roots. Water molecules cling to each other. They hold hands through cohesion, and to the walls of the xylem through adhesion. This grip, this delicate tension, is strong enough to defy gravity. And so, the droplet climbs. You rise with it. Through the narrow tunnels of the stem, past knots in the wood, through rings of time carved into the trunk. Along the way, minerals hitch a ride, potassium, calcium, nitrogen, tiny travelers feeding the needs of every branch, every bud. This is no rush. No flood. The pace is soft and constant, a quiet heartbeat of hydration. You notice the world as you pass. The xylem walls are porous, like the inside of a reed. Here and there, companion cells hum with activity, regulating the flow. Around you, living tissue, called cambium, gently divides, helping the tree grow outward in soft, slow rings. The xylem, though dead when mature, serves as a sacred corridor, its emptiness makes way for movement. Up you go, past nodes and forks, past bark and branch, until the light above glows brighter. The air thins. The canopy stirs. Finally, you arrive at the base of a leaf. The droplet pauses, not out of exhaustion, but readiness. Ahead is the final step, the passage into the leaf's green world, where cells wait with open arms. Inside, the water is welcomed into the mesophyll, the soft inner tissue where photosynthesis hums. Here, the water may be used, broken apart, its hydrogen borrowed for making sugar, its oxygen released into air. Or, it may pass through, drawn upward to the surface of the leaf, to a stoma, a tiny pore now yawning wide in the afternoon sun. The droplet becomes vapor, joins the breeze, and drifts skyward, free. This is transpiration, and though it seems like loss, it is life. For each drop that leaves, another rises to take its place. And in this endless cycle, the plant is cooled, minerals are moved, and roots are inspired to drink again. Every breath of air above you is touched by this secret rain, water lifted from soil to sky by trees that never make a sound. You lie beneath one now, and suddenly the shade feels deeper, more sacred. This tree, silent, unmoving, is full of motion. Each leaf is a fountain. Each root a spring. The entire organism is a bridge between earth and air, between wet and dry, between what lies hidden and what can be seen. You begin to feel your own thirst mirrored in this journey. Your body, too, is made mostly of water. It flows through your blood, into your cells, around your lungs. You carry rivers within you. And just like the tree, you are shaped by the flow. You don't need to control the flow. Only to trust it. You let this thought settle, like dew. The tree does not command the droplet to rise. It creates the space for it. It allows the pull of the sun and the bond of molecules to do their work. It participates, not with force, but with openness. And perhaps there is a lesson there, for you. Growth does not always need to be loud. Rising does not always need to be rushed. Sometimes, the most powerful motion is the one that begins in silence. The droplet you followed may now hang in the air above the forest, part of a cloud forming slowly in the sky. One day, it will fall again, as rain, as mist, as frost. And the journey will begin anew. But before you drift into deeper sleep, a new thought begins to stir, soft, golden, edged with curiosity. What of the light that burns too bright? What of the shadows that stretch too long? How do leaves balance the hunger for sunlight with the need for rest? Let us explore next how light becomes too much. And how even the sun can be something to move around. A dance of shade, of color, of adaptation. You are lying still now, wrapped in softness, the world dimming around you like a candle lowered to rest. The tree above you is quiet, not sleeping, but thoughtful. Its branches no longer stretch greedily toward the light. Instead, they listen. They adapt. Because not all sunlight is soft. Sometimes, the very gift that gives life can become too much. The sun blazes in the sky, high and relentless. Its beams grow harsh, its heat unforgiving. What was once a whisper becomes a shout. Too much light, and the delicate machinery of photosynthesis falters. Cells burn. Water vanishes too quickly. The leaf, if it does not move with care, may suffer. But plants, old as stars in their patience, know how to protect themselves. You notice the leaves shifting ever so slightly, angling themselves not directly toward the sun, but to the side. This isn't laziness. It is wisdom. Phototropism, the plant's ability to sense the direction and intensity of light, allows it to bend and reach, not toward the brightest light, but toward the right light. It doesn't take all it can. It takes only what it needs. Some leaves, like those in the undergrowth, are built for low light, wide and thin, maximizing their reach into dim spaces. Others, like desert plants, are narrow and coated in wax, minimizing their exposure. Their surface is small, their attitude cautious. They know that too much light means too much water lost, and too little left to grow. Others have evolved more subtle strategies. In some forests, you'll find plants whose leaves blush red or purple. This isn't for show. It's a layer of pigments, anthocyanins, that act like a sunscreen, absorbing and filtering the intensity of light. These pigments don't take part in photosynthesis, but they protect those that do. You might think of them as tinted glasses for leaves. A quiet defense that lets the plant see the sun without being burned. And there are some plants, clever and delicate, that move. Not in the way you do. They have no legs, no muscles. But their leaves shift with the day. At sunrise, they open like hands ready to receive. By noon, they may tilt downward, catching less of the overhead blaze. And as night falls, they fold, some even close entirely, conserving moisture, resting from the day's fire. This movement is called nyctinasty, a dance written not in will, but in rhythm. It is not a reaction to fear. It is a ritual of restoration. You begin to see the leaves above you differently now, not as passive panels catching light, but as wise, self-aware instruments. They know more than you imagine. They know how to grow toward the east, where morning light is gentle. They know when to thicken their skins, when to curl their edges, when to hide in shadows. They know how to survive. And survival, you realize, is not the same as struggle. To survive with grace is to balance, to bend instead of break. To receive, and then retreat. To say yes to light, and also to shade. Even the chloroplasts, those emerald architects inside the cell, shift positions within the cell depending on the light. In low light, they spread out to catch every possible photon. In strong light, they huddle along the edges, shielding themselves from damage. They know when to shine. And they know when to rest. There is a lesson here, gentle as a breeze. You, too, are touched by light that overwhelms. Too much pressure. Too many demands. Too many voices. And you, too, have the right to tilt away, to soften, to shade your spirit. The leaf does not feel guilt for turning away from the sun. It knows that in choosing rest, it preserves life. Your body knows this, too, though you may forget. Your breath slows as the world darkens. Your pulse eases. You turn inward. And like the leaf, you find comfort in the shadow. Because shadows are not the absence of life. They are part of life's balance. They are where moisture returns. Where roots remember. Where new growth begins. You lie there, half in shade, half in golden light. And you realize, you don't always need to shine. You don't always need to reach. Sometimes, the wisest thing you can do is tilt gently away. Even entire forests follow this principle. In dense jungles, tall trees create layers of canopy that protect everything below. Ferns and mosses thrive not in the light, but in the cool hush of shadow. Orchids bloom in filtered beams, not in direct blaze. The forest is not a competition for light, it is a harmony of sun and shade. You feel the wisdom of that harmony settling into your chest. To grow, you need light. But to thrive, you also need the space to soften, to retreat. Like a leaf turning under the heat of noon. The sun has given its gift. And now, as evening settles in, the light begins to fade. But before the darkness deepens fully, a final thought opens its petals within your mind. The sugars the leaf has made, sweet and silent, are not just for the tree. Some are shared, traded, passed on through roots and soil, through connections unseen. There is a hidden network underground. A forest beneath the forest. Where roots speak and trees remember. Let's follow the sugars next. Downward, inward. Into the soil's soft mystery. You rest now, still and quiet, while above, leaves murmur in the wind. But beneath you, far below the hum of insects, beneath fallen leaves and curling bark, another forest waits. Not a forest of trunks and branches, but one of roots, threads, and quiet exchanges. Let us journey downward, slowly, gently, into the cool hush beneath the surface. The soil receives you like water receives a pebble, silently, without resistance. You pass fallen leaves in various stages of forgetting. Bits of bark. Shells of insects. Every piece once part of something living. And now, they become part of the earth's memory. And deeper still, where sunlight never reaches, a vast and unseen world unfolds. Roots stretch outward, not just downward, but sideways, weaving beneath the forest floor like soft, searching fingers. They do not race. They do not chase. They explore, tasting minerals, sensing moisture, listening to the stories written in the dirt. And with them, traveling along their length, flows the sugar made in sunlight. Photosynthesis does not end in the leaf. The glucose, that soft treasure crafted from air and light, is not all kept. Some of it is passed downward, cell by cell, into the phloem, the plant's internal river of nourishment. Where the xylem pulls water upward, the phloem carries sugar down, a slow stream of sweetness feeding the unseen. The roots drink it in. They store some for lean times, and offer some to others. Because the roots are not alone. Threading through the soil, finer than hair, finer than silk, are fungal hyphae, delicate strands that belong to mycorrhizal fungi. These fungi are not parasites. They are partners. Friends. Ancient companions in life's long dance. They wrap around roots. Sometimes, they enter them. And in doing so, they form a connection, a bridge between plant and fungus, a union of need and offering. The tree shares sugar, the rich, carbon-packed gift of photosynthesis. In return, the fungus brings water, nitrogen, phosphorus, nutrients too small or distant for the roots to reach alone. It is a quiet trade, older than history. And it doesn't stop at one tree. These fungal threads connect one root to another. Then to another. Then to dozens more. Across the forest, through soil and stone, they link tree to tree, sapling to elder, birch to pine to oak. This is the wood wide web, a vast underground network of communication and cooperation. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in molecules. A tree under stress, from drought, disease, or damage, may send chemical signals through these fungal threads, warning others. In response, neighboring trees may adjust their chemistry, strengthen their defenses, even slow their own growth to help. Older trees, the elders of the forest, often give more than they take. Their broad crowns catch more light. Their roots reach deeper into mineral-rich depths. And through the mycorrhizal network, they share what they have with smaller, shaded saplings, even those of a different species. This is not survival of the fittest. This is survival of the connected. And in this quiet web, you begin to feel your own place. Not as separate from nature, but woven into it. Your feet have stood on soil laced with memory. You have breathed air made sweet by leaves. You have eaten fruit born from photosynthesis. You have exhaled carbon now carried into roots and rain. You are part of this system, not above it. Not beside it. Within it. And the soil, often dismissed as dirt, is not dead matter. It is alive with bacteria, with fungi, with roots and whispers and possibility. A teaspoon of healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are humans on Earth. They digest, decompose, rebuild. They make nitrogen available. They create space for air and water. They carry genes, messages, and memory. You lie still now, thinking of the forest not as a collection of trees, but as one great body, above and below, with leaves that breathe, roots that feel, and fungi that connect. Even in the darkest spaces, connection thrives. And in the silence of soil, life grows its most enduring bridges. The sugars that began in sunlight, that danced through chloroplasts, were shaped into sweetness, have now found purpose in generosity. Passed not just to the tree's own roots, but to strangers, to friends, to future forests. And before you fall into deeper sleep, a final question settles like dew. What happens when a tree returns to the soil? When its time ends, does it disappear? Or does it become part of something new? Let us follow the journey of the falling leaf. The returning root. The transformation that never truly ends. You lie beneath the night sky now, wrapped in stillness, the stars above like ancient freckles on the face of time. The forest breathes around you, or not with sound, but with presence. And somewhere in that darkness, a tree has fallen. Not suddenly. Not violently. But as all trees do eventually, slowly, with grace. Its roots loosen their grip on the soil. Its trunk, once upright and strong, bows to the earth. Its branches no longer chase the sun. But this is not the end. It is a beginning dressed in different clothes. You walk now, gently, through a quiet woodland. The fallen tree rests like a sleeping elder, covered in moss, softened by time, almost becoming part of the earth itself. But look closer. Life is blooming from what seems like stillness. The bark has cracked open in places, and through those cracks, fungi rise like tiny flags of rebirth. Bright orange cups. Tall pale stalks. Velvet caps and trembling frills. These are decomposers, organisms that do not mourn the dead, but liberate it. They feed on cellulose and lignin, the very fibers that once gave the tree its strength. Slowly, molecule by molecule, they unravel the past. Not to destroy it, but to share it. Beneath the log, beetles tunnel through tunnels carved by their ancestors. Ants weave cities in wood. Centipedes curl in sleep. Larvae wriggle, blind and new, into the softening flesh of bark. And each creature, no matter how small, plays a part. What was once a trunk is now a village. A community. A nursery. A feast. Even moss arrives, soft, green, gentle. It spreads like a hush over the bark, holding moisture, anchoring spores, offering shelter. It does not take from the tree. It simply uses the space made available by time. You sit by the log now, your hand resting on its curved surface. It is warm with life. Inside, bacteria and fungi are breaking down wood into simpler forms, nitrogen, carbon, minerals, all flowing slowly back into the soil. The tree, once a keeper of energy, now releases it, like a final breath stretched over decades. Nothing here is wasted. The nutrients will be taken up by nearby roots, perhaps from the tree's own seedlings. Its sugars, once carried down into roots, now rise again through the bodies of mushrooms, through the wings of insects, through the bellies of birds. And so the tree is not lost. It is scattered, into the forest, into the air, into the lives it nourishes. You remember now the leaves that once danced in sunlight, the sugars that once formed in its cells, the water that once flowed from root to crown. All of it has returned. Not to nothing, but to everything. In the natural world, there is no waste. There is only movement. Change. Reform. Even its carbon, the very backbone of its body, returns to the sky. As microbes break the wood down, carbon dioxide is released, joining the air once more. And eventually, perhaps, that carbon will be drawn into another leaf, in another tree, on another day. Perhaps even into the leaf above you now. You see how nothing ends, not really. Every death is a recycling. Every fall is a return. And in that return, there is peace. The forest does not resist death. It weaves it into the pattern. Old trees fall. New saplings rise. Dead leaves feed soil. Buried roots feed fungi. What is lost in one form is gained in another. And perhaps your own life mirrors this truth. You, too, will change. You will leave behind pieces. You will fall, not always in body, but in plans, in seasons of self. But even then, something of you will remain. In the kindness you offered, in the energy you gave, in the lives you touched. Just as the tree remains. And as your breath slows, the thought returns to you. That carbon, water, sugar, and air are not separate things. They are travelers. And you are one of them. You have followed sunlight into the leaf. Watched it become sugar. Seen that sugar feed the roots. Watched roots connect to others. And now, seen it all return to earth again. But before the forest settles into silence, one last question glows softly. What of the forest itself? Not the tree. Not the soil. But the whole? What happens when many trees breathe together? Can the forest, as a single being, shape the world? Let us look next at the forest not as landscape, but as lungs, as climate, as planet. You are barely awake now, mind adrift between thought and dream, but the forest around you remains fully alive. Not just as trees, not just as soil, but as a single, breathing body. You once looked at a forest and saw many trees. Now, you see one vast organism, not in metaphor, but in function. A living, breathing system that shapes the world. Let your mind drift higher now, float slowly upward, above the canopy. From here, the green spreads endlessly, rippling like the surface of a soft sea. Leaves shimmer in the light. Branches sway in air that smells of rain and resin. Beneath you, millions of trees are inhaling light, exhaling oxygen, drinking carbon dioxide. This is not a passive act. This is power. Because what happens in this sea of green doesn't stay in the forest. It changes everything, the air, the rain, the heat, the clouds. The forest is not just habitat. It is heartbeat. Let us begin with carbon. You know by now how trees absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, how they tuck it away into wood, roots, and leaves. A single mature tree can absorb around 48 pounds of CO each year. Now imagine a forest of 1 billion trees. That is not a forest. That is a carbon sink, a great lung drawing down the excess of the sky, holding it in trunks, balancing the breath of the earth. And when forests are healthy, the atmosphere listens. Temperatures ease. Rainfall patterns stay steady. Storms calm. Heat softens. Now follow that carbon further. Not all of it stays in the tree. Some travels into the soil, locked into organic matter. A healthy forest stores more carbon below ground than above. You realize then, a forest is a memory bank for air. But there is more. So much more. Forests do not only balance carbon, they summon rain. It begins with leaves, wide, open, breathing. Each leaf loses water through transpiration. That water becomes vapor, rising into the air. Multiply that by millions of leaves, and you create atmospheric moisture, enough to influence cloud formation, enough to make rain. In places like the Amazon, the forest creates its own weather. Rain doesn't just fall on the forest. It is born from it. Moisture released by trees gathers above, condenses into clouds, and returns as rainfall, not just locally, but far beyond. Winds carry this vapor across regions, even across continents. The forest becomes a pump, drawing water from soil, sending it skyward, and spreading life outward. And when forests fall, when trees are burned or cut, that pump weakens. Rain becomes scarce. Rivers dry. Crops fail. It is not just trees that are lost. It is balance. Now look to temperature. The forest canopy, wide and shaded, cools the air. It reflects some sunlight, absorbs some, and releases water vapor that carries heat away. This process is called evapotranspiration, and it is nature's air conditioner. Forests cool cities. They soften droughts. They keep winds from roaring too loud and keep soil from turning to dust. And in their silence, they guide wind. Trees are not still. Their branches flex with the breeze, and in doing so, they shape it, slowing it, redirecting it. Forests are like fingers stretched across the land, pressing gently into the atmosphere, creating eddies and swirls that influence jet streams and monsoons. They are not just shaped by climate. They shape climate. You lie back now, nestled in the hum of roots and wind, and you begin to feel it. The forest is not just a backdrop. It is not scenery. It is system. An engine. A regulator. A living thermostat, barometer, and reservoir. It is a commons shared by countless species, each depending on the others. From elephant to ant, from jaguar to fungus, from bee to bacteria. Each life form plays its part in maintaining this delicate machine. And when we protect forests, we are not simply saving trees. We are saving stability. The forest breathes for us. Every second breath you take contains oxygen made by plants. Much of the rain you drink was summoned by trees. The food you eat began in soil fed by fallen leaves. And the climate you live within. The winds you walk through, the temperature you feel. All of it listens to the forest. Even when we do not. But now you do. Now, as you drift deeper into sleep, your mind no longer sees trees as objects to admire or resources to use. You see them as relationships, bonds of molecule and memory, of wind and warmth, of life repeated through time. You are not separate from the forest. You are not outside of it. You are made from it. The carbon in your body was once pulled from the air by leaves. The water in your blood once flowed through xylem. You carry the forest within you, just as it carries you. And now, one final thought rises, soft as mist. What of the beginning? Before leaves, before stems, before even the first tree. How did photosynthesis begin? Let us return. Not to the canopy, but to the sea. To where it all began. To the first green cell that caught the sun. Sink now, gently, deeper into stillness. Let the forest above you fade into shadow. Let the roots release you. Let the soil dissolve. And float. Float back in time, and not decades, not centuries. But billions of years. The earth is young now. There is no forest. No leaf. No tree. There is only ocean, warm, vast, and endless. Waves shimmer under a sun that burns brighter than it should. The sky is orange with methane, the air thick with gases you would not dare breathe. But beneath the waves, something stirs. Something microscopic. Something miraculous. A single cell. You cannot see it with your eyes, but you can imagine it. Round, soft-edged, floating freely in the soup of early Earth. It is cyanobacteria, a tiny architect with an enormous future. At first, it is just another microbe, living like others do. Consuming molecules, drifting through currents, dividing gently. But then, something new awakens. Inside its tiny body, a pigment begins to form. A molecule shaped like a net, perfect for catching light. This molecule is called chlorophyll. And it is the heart of what we now call photosynthesis. The cell does not know what it has done. It only knows that, for the first time, it can take sunlight and build with it. And so it begins. Sunlight plus carbon dioxide plus water equals sugar plus oxygen. A new recipe for life. The cell makes its own food now. It no longer depends on hunting. It creates, quietly, efficiently, endlessly. And in doing so, it begins to shape the world. Because what it releases, that gentle byproduct, that invisible sigh, is oxygen. At first, the Earth doesn't know what to do with it. Oxygen is reactive. Dangerous. Strange. It rusts the rocks. It poisons some microbes. But it also lays the foundation for something bold. A breathable sky. You watch, drifting through this ancient ocean. As cyanobacteria multiply, slowly, then swiftly. Blooming in mats and filaments, forming stromatolites that still stand in Australia today. They cover the sea floor. They fill the shallow lagoons. And over time, they exhale enough oxygen to change the planet. This is called the Great Oxygenation Event. When the air began to transform. When the sky began to turn blue. When life began to take a new shape. From this microscopic act of catching the sun, all green things would one day grow. First came algae, floating freely, catching light in open waters. Then, more complex eukaryotic cells learned the trick, inviting the chloroplast in, like a guest that never left. These cells became plants. And those plants made the first mosses, the first ferns, the first forests. All from one act. Catch the sun. Split the water. Feed the future. You realize, now, how humble the beginning truly was. Not an explosion. Not a command. Just a quiet moment in the sea. When light met life. And still today, every leaf remembers that moment. Every blade of grass is a descendant of that first cell. Every breath you take contains oxygen that began in a lineage. Older than mountains, older than memory. You carry that light inside you now. Your body, built from carbon once fixed in sugar. Your lungs, exchanging gases made by roots and leaves. Your thoughts, moving with energy that once rode a photon. Across 93 million miles. Even in your stillness, you are part of this ancient equation. You are not separate from the sun. You are made from it. And as your eyes grow heavier, as your breath becomes deeper, as your mind folds gently into rest, you return once more to that first, soft green. That first breath of oxygen. That first molecule of sugar. That first moment when life dared to create from light. And from that daring, came everything. So sleep now. As the trees above sigh in the breeze. As the soil below holds memory. As the stars, born of hydrogen, watch over the quiet miracle that is you.